Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the West Suffolk series, 103 parishes set in some of the most beautiful English countryside, and there's some good ones in this area. Shall we go have a look? Of course. Welcome back to West Suffolk, everybody, where it is still absolutely hammering down at the moment. I am very wet and I'm probably going to get even wetter before this day has finished. However, in this village, I might be able to dodge the spots because it's a really, really small one. It's a linear village as well, which means I've just got to walk from one end to the other. Behind me, you can see a private road which marks the eastern extent of this. We're going to walk to the western end and then just basically walk back again. And that's really it. Welcome to the parish of Herringswell. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Herringswell, spring of the Hyrningas. Okay, so for West Suffolk's second outing, we have Herringswell, vastly different from Exning, the village I took you around last time. This one is a whole lot smaller and laid out in a completely different way. It's a linear village on technically a dead end, owing to the private road at its easternmost point. It consists primarily of one single street with a church, a village hall, a war memorial and a handful of other minor landmarks. There's one name heavily connected to this place, Davies. The Davies family were the local landowners, and a couple of the things we'll be discussing in this episode relate to them, including a tomb in the churchyard and the village hall. For most of its history, Herringswell has been owned as part of an estate. Most of the houses have now been restored and are in residential use. It used to have a pub, although weirdly, it never served a single pint of alcohol, owing to a rather outlandish belief from the estate's gamekeeper. We'll touch more on that as we take what is a simple stroll in the pouring rain through what is a peaceful corner of West Suffolk. Things could have been different though back in 2005 if the locals hadn't rebelled against developers who wanted to turn this into Watermark, a huge town with 6,000 houses. Let's go. We start at the eastern end of Herringswell's quiet, narrow main road. This is the street. As mentioned in the intro, Herringswell for most of its life has been owned and operated as part of an estate. It was all owned by Herbert Davies and ran to some 2,585 acres. By all accounts, it wasn't small. He died in 1899 and the estate was sold to his brother Leopold. He would own it until 1905. Most of, if not all, of Herringswell's houses were part of the estate, although these days they've all been sold off and they're privately owned. There are gaps along this road, not too many but enough to notice them occasionally. Here's one where there's not much to speak of. I took the opportunity here to film a puddle though, because it seems during heavy rain parts of the street are prone to a bit of localised flooding. The surrounding countryside is pretty flat. This was seen as attractive back in 2005 by developers who wanted to build a new town here. 600 acres big and named Watermark, it was to have 6,000 homes and an industrial park, but Herringswell's locals put a stop to it. Our first real landmark is the village hall, although to give this its full and correct name, this is the Davies Memorial Hall. This was built by Mary Davies, the widow of Leopold, in memory of her husband. He died in 1915, and if you look up above the main door, you'll see a stone which affirms those facts. Aside from the church, this is Herringswell's only communal building. Facilities include a main hall with a bar and a fridge and a separate meeting room. It is of course the ideal place for the local news, and that's why it's got a parish notice board. Tick it off, guys. Next is the Red House. This was originally built as a pub, but it never opened because the local gamekeeper was convinced excessive drinking would lead to poaching. As such, it's always been a house. Also a house now is the old school, which is directly opposite. There's no primary school these days, but there was a boarding school here until very recently. Stick with me on that one. As we continue up the street, we next come to the old post office. That's this house. Herringswell has no shop, but it used to have one called the Live and Let Live. Unbeknown until this point, we've been walking on the Icknield Way, an ancient trackway that runs from Norfolk to Wiltshire. It's believed to be named after the Iceni tribe. It's popular with ramblers, so it's a good thing Herringswell has a B&B to accommodate them, Church Farmhouse. Opposite that we have a red phone box, and this one's still got a working phone, also ideal if you're following the Icknield Way and get a bit lost. We're now in the oldest part of the village, and so it's no surprise we're encountering old converted barns, like this one. At the centre of Herringswell is the church dedicated to St Ethelbert. This has an overwhelming south transept, and the tower has 3 massive buttresses, one in the middle of its west face. These are a result of the church being largely rebuilt after being destroyed by fire in 1869. What you see today is almost entirely the 1870s work of Sir Arthur Blomfield. The other striking curiosity here is a huge memorial outside the south porch. It remembers Herbert Davies, and he lies beneath a column being garlanded by what's often described as a lush young maiden. Okay, so the church is open, so we're going to go in and have a little look around. Let's open the door. There we go. Now, new viewers might not know this, but I have a bit of a problem sometimes when I go into a church, and that is I can never find the light switch. Here, looks like we're okay. We have light. Haha. So we have light in the nave and in the chancel as well, I think. That's good. Let's have a look first at the font, which is here underneath the tower. There we go. Standard octagonal font there. Bell ropes behind. Let's have a walk down the nave then, the centre of the nave. Got a tablet on the wall either side here. Which one shall I go to first? Let's go for this one first. So, on the right here we have, in loving memory of Major Mostyn Llewellyn Davies, husband of Brenda Margaret, and only son of Llewellyn and Clara Davies of Herringswell, who was missing on the night of March the 22nd, 1944, at Kernatrava, Bulgaria, while performing outstanding services in enemy-occupied territory, which gained him an immediate award of the DSO. Life to him was not given to be safeguarded, but lived. Okay, let's go to the other side. What is this then? We have Leslie Arthur Ballance, Captain King's Royal Rifles, only son of Arthur Ballance of the Manor House, Herringswell. Now, speaking of the Manor House, we'll be driving past that later. I don't know whether we'll be able to see it though, because it's kind of off a lane to the left-hand side. We'll soon find out later. Let's head to the chancel. Nice tiled floor here. That's quite nice. That's quite nice. Got an organ on the right. Some nice stained glass. Can't quite tell who that is offhand. Let's get a bit closer. Nope. Sorry, can't tell who that is. It's some kind of king, I think. Not quite sure which king. All the religious people out there are probably going to be screaming at me for that, because I don't know who that is. We've got a nice little altar here with some flowers on top. Is that holly? I'm not quite sure. It looks like holly from here. It probably isn't. And then we have the east window. We all know who that is, depicted. And there we go. Nice little church. Not much on the walls, frankly. Nothing in this chancel, look, there's nothing here. And nothing up there either. There's something in the corner there, but I can't go any further than the altar rail for obvious reasons. And there you go. Nothing really at the back, just these two tablets on the wall. There is another tablet there too, actually, which I didn't see. We'll just check this out as well on our way back out. This is for Harry Addison, who fell in the fields of Flanders, March 1915, among the first to volunteer from this village, and he was the first to fall. Well, there we go. Now, speaking of the war, there is a war memorial here in Herringswell, which is what we're heading for. If we continue out of the church towards the western end of the village, the last sort of landmark is the war memorial, and at that point, let's turn the lights out, we'll turn around and head back. There isn't really much more beyond that, but of course, when we reach the end, we'll then be hopping back in the car and heading up towards the manor house to finish this one off. Nice church, that one. Enjoyed that. Brief visit, but well worth your time if you're in the area. Back to the road, and next we have the village sign. This depicts two fish, and yes, they are herrings. Oddly though, Herringswell's name has nothing to do with the animal according to Suffolk heritage. This sign was erected by Herringswell's villagers in the year 2000 to mark the millennium. I very much doubt there's any herrings or fish of any kind in the small pond which you can see beyond the sign in the churchyard. I expect though that had medieval origins. Next we pass a curiously named house, the Beehive, on our way to the War Memorial. The memorial sits on a triangle of land where the street runs into Herringswell Road. This was erected in 1920. It's a rough granite obelisk which has 11 names upon it in total, 9 from World War I and 2 from World War II. Now, despite being well out of the way as villages go, it's at this point you can catch a bus. In fact, there's two. Herringswell is served by the numbers 357 and 956, both of which take slightly different routes between the towns of Mildenhall and Bury St Edmunds. In all, it's a peaceful village, this one, with lots more than meets the eye. Okay, so we've made it to the end of civilization, so now we turn around and head back the other way. And when I reach the car, like I said earlier, I'll hop in that and we'll drive to the north to catch Herringswell Manor, hopefully. It's kind of, as you look at this junction, if you imagine you're in a car, turn right. On the left-hand side of that road is where the manor is. Don't know whether or not I'll be able to catch it or not, but we'll soon find out. So yeah, let's do that to finish off this episode, shall we? Oh yeah, I just thought I'd do this on the way back as well. Here you can see, near the phone box, a massive puddle. I splashed my way through this earlier, and also in the car to do the drive-in, which you saw at the beginning of this video. As you can see, it's not the nicest thing to actually have to do. Look how deep this is. Really, really deep. So, yeah. I wonder whether this is a village that's got problems with flooding. I wouldn't imagine it does, because I don't think there are any streams or rivers which are, you know, desperately close to the village. But this bit here is certainly underwater. Mind you, to be fair, if anywhere's going to flood, you'd have thought this is probably the best bit, isn't it? You know, it's better than flooding people's houses and whatnot. They seem to be raised up. I mean, look at this house here next to the phone box. It's raised up, isn't it, off this main sort of road. So I guess it all sort of flows down the hills and sort of collects there. So yeah, might be all right. We'll see. Don't know. Herringswell Manor was built in 1901. It was a country house owned by Arthur Ballance and his wife's family, the Peaks, which has now been converted to flats. It's behind the gate to the left here and off limits for us. Mind you, the building opposite most certainly isn't. Check this out. That's the manor's stable block, built in a symmetrical design with a large house on either side. Before becoming the flats it is today, Herringswell Manor was a boarding school. At first, it was an American-style school for children of US and Canadian families who were working internationally. In 1981, the property was sold to Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh Ashram before the Shi Tenoji School, a Japanese Buddhist boarding school, took over in 1985. It closed in July 2000 due to declining student figures. And that's it for Herringswell, folks. 2 down, 101 to go, and next week we'll be encountering a village with a mill. One you can stay in if you so desired. See you there. Thanks for watching this video, folks. Don't forget to like this episode if you haven't already. It really makes a difference with YouTube. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and give us a share too if you've got friends who'd like it. You can find all the links to my social media accounts below, as well as my Buy Me a Coffee page where you can donate to the channel. Also, if you've enjoyed this episode, have a look at some more videos in this series. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and I'm out.